House managers spent their final day of opening arguments in President Trump's impeachment trial, focused on the second article of impeachment, obstruction of Congress. Throughout their opening arguments, House managers pointed to witnesses and documents they'd like to hear from and read, but can't because the Trump administration has blocked them. The Senate is expected to vote on whether to subpoena witnesses sometime next week. John Bresnahan reports for Politico that the trial may hinge on Republican Senator Lamar Alexander of Tennessee. He writes, privately, senior Senate Republicans expect the vote to seek witness testimony to fail, but they are watching Alexander and several other Republicans closely. John Bresnahan is the Congressional Bureau Chief for Politico and joins me now from Capitol Hill. Welcome, John. So why exactly are both Democrats and Republicans paying so much attention to Senator Alexander?
Well, the Democrats will need to pick up 4 Republican votes in order to win a motion to call witnesses. This is called former Trump National Security Advisor John Bolton, for instance, to subpoena him to testify in this impeachment trial. And right now, there's 3 Republicans who they consider likely candidates: Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, and Mitt Romney of Utah. And a 4th one is the key, though. And Lamar Alexander is someone who of Tennessee. He's the chairman of the Health Education Committee. He is retiring at the end of this term, so he may not feel some of the pressure that a member who is considering running for re-election or is going to have to live in the Senate with under President Trump would feel. So this is someone they think is, and he's a moderate. This is a man who has cut deals in the past with Democrats. He's somebody who is well respected on both sides of the aisle. So the leadership is keeping an eye on Lamar Alexander.
And so ideologically, Democrats think that they can probably forge some common ground with him?
Yeah, he'd be somebody open to conversations. In the past, when there were problems between, say, Majority Leader Mitch McConnell and former Democratic Leader Harry Reid or current Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer, Lamar Alexander is someone who can go to the Democrats. He can have, a private conversation with Democrats. He's well respected. He knows policy. He knows politics. He's, a former education secretary. He's a long-term, a former governor. This is a man who is well respected in his own party and the other party. So he carries weight. Also, he's close to McConnell, so McConnell trusts him and uses him sometimes as an emissary to Democrats.
And
but again,
yes. Where he goes, will others follow? I mean, do you think that Republicans worry that Alexander's eventual decision could sway those other senators who may be on the fence about the question of witnesses?
Well, that's the interesting dynamic here. If Lamar Alexander were to go, and there's no sign he will, but there's a couple days, we'll see what happens. He would probably bring potentially other Republicans with him and make the majority for a witness even bigger. Let's say someone, Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania or Rob Portman of Ohio. These are other members, kind of centrist Republicans that both sides are looking at. That if Alexander were to vote with the Democrats, that may give cover for other Republicans to also vote with the Democrats.
Right. And so do you see him signaling in any way recently what his decision on witnesses may be?
No, he's very close-mouthed. We tried to grab him today. There was a briefing on the coronavirus, the outbreak in China, and what threat it posed to the United States, and that comes under the jurisdiction of his committee. And we tried to grab him there on this issue, and he just said, I'm listening to everything very closely. I want to hear what the House managers have to say. I want to hear what the president's team has to say, and then I'll make a decision. He's very, very tight-lipped about it. But if you talk to senators on both sides of the aisle and leadership aides, Alexander is really the key to the witness question.
I'm curious about his relationship with Majority Leader Mitch McConnell. As you mentioned, that they are close, but McConnell has really just shown this sort of iron-fisted consistency when it comes to this issue of witnesses. So is it possible that everyone is sort of just reading more into, the Lamar Alexander possible vote for witnesses simply to make this seem more exciting?
I'm not sure about that. there is, if you talk to Republican senators, if you talk to Republican leaders, which we have in private, Alexander is a person that they are monitoring closely. There's no sign he's going to vote for Democrats, but they know this is the kind of senator who could do that if he felt it was the right thing to do. And I think that's, in the party of Trump nowadays, the idea that a Republican senator could stand up and vote against the president is a difficult thing. But Alexander voted recently against President Trump on the issue of diverting Pentagon funding for the Mexican border wall.
Right.
So this is an issue. He has opposed Trump, as recently as December. So this is an issue where he has shown some independence from the president. Not a lot, but some. And that's why I think right now that this issue is so incendiary inside the trial, inside the conference, that they're watching this very, very closely.
And right. And John, I wonder, as you know, Lamar Alexander obviously is a member of the Senate. He's a member of Congress. I wonder if the argument the Democrats laid out today, which said, look, this isn't about this particular president. This is about the balance of power in our democracy going forward. And if, you as senators don't stand up to this president, this is going to change our democracy forever going forward. Would that sort of argument resonate with him as a senator?
Yes, and from an institutional point of view, that's a very powerful argument. The idea that the White House can blanket refuse to respond to any subpoenas or say, we're not going to allow you to talk to any aides, we're not going to honor any subpoenas, and if you don't like it, go to court and try to, run out the clock on an investigation. That is a very powerful argument to make, because right now Republicans are in the majority in the Senate, but someday they may be in the minority, or, a future Democratic president could be doing this to a Republican Senate. So that is a very powerful argument, and they, senators hear this. I mean, Mitch McConnell was sitting on the completely different side of the fence on witnesses when Bill Clinton was being impeached. So, they're all cognizant of, one day you're in the majority, the next day you're in the minority, one day your president is in the White House, the next day it's, the other party. They're very cognizant of the whole balance of power issue.
A lot is at stake. All right, John Bresnahan of Politico, we thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.